Governments deny it. Militaries deny it. Even the mainstream media denies it. But they are here, and they've been here for a very long time. The Mutual UFO Network has been on the front lines uncovering the truth since 1969, and now we're sharing that truth with you. Welcome to MUFON What's Up with your hosts, Katie Paige, Christopher DePerno, and Katie Cook, exclusively on the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. Wondering what's up? So are we.
What's up? It is Tuesday night. Oh, wait a minute. No, it's not. It's Saturday night. And we are here live in Pine Bush, New York for the Pine Bush UFO Festival. And we have just had a blast of a day. We are so excited you are all here with us. We hope you had a great weekend and a great week so far. You are listening to MUFON What's Up Radio, the show that says discovery starts with curiosity and curiosity starts with MUFON. Brought to you by KGRADB.com. Please go to their website and please subscribe and please like our page there on YouTube. We have got a great show for you tonight because we are just grabbing up people here at the festival. So we have several guests for you tonight, and that is exciting. As always, we're brought to you by MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, always asking that all-important question, are we alone in the universe? And I don't think so after this weekend. I know, I think there's aliens walking around here, don't you guys?
There's gotta be.
Kind of intoxicated, some of them. I don't know.
I think one's on a motorcycle.
Oh, yeah, right now, just cruising on by. Hey,
Yeah.
you did great artwork with an alien on a motorcycle. Katie brought her artwork. There's been great vendors. Oh, my gosh, it was fabulous, fabulous. So
Fun.
I want to always do a little plug for the MUFON Symposium, July 7th through the 10th. This week, feature speaker is Marc Dantonio, who we have here with us today. He will be doing a
great interview.
he's going to be doing a, let's see, what is it? It's let's look up and let's investigate 1.5 hour workshop. And then he's also going to be a speaker, and he's going to be speaking about, are we alone in the universe? Or no, not that. He's going to be speaking about, yes, they are here. So I hope that you guys come out and join us in Denver this year. At the Sheridan. It's going to be a fantastic time. As always, this is my awesome co-host, Chris DePerno, New York State Director.
Hello, everybody.
And ERT member, and the one and only Katie Cook. Whoop, 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 whoop. Yeah, it's so awesome. We're all together, which is great.
It's so exciting here. I feel like I'm on the red carpet of UFO Festival. I mean, this is the red carpet. I don't have any heels on, guys, but I mean, this is unbelievable.
He's lying. He has heels on.
I do. Yeah, well, okay. But anyways, this is absolutely awesome. I'm surrounded by the two Katies, and I'm telling you, we had a great day with the festival and everything, and we got some tremendous interviews coming on there. Katie, what'd you think of it so far?
The whole festival and everything?
Absolutely.
Absolutely awesome. So Pine Bush is fantastic. And we should tell everybody we're actually at Bill Skywatcher's house.
Yes, we
Our
are.
fearless producer. He let us come over to do the show so we could all be together and do this for you guys. So this is a lot of fun. But it's my first time in Pine Bush. Killer, awesome people. And this is a really cool festival. So if you didn't make it up this year, just please come out next year because we'll probably all be here again. It is super fun. This whole little town just gets turned into UFOville. It is fantastic. And we've all lectured while we were up here and just had a lot of fun. It was really good. So I will definitely be back.
I just want to put a real quick plug in, but I am surrounded by two of the most talented people. Katie over here did an incredible job promoting her book. That's absolutely awesome. I encourage you to get it. And this one over here is a Michelangelo. She's an artist and a half. So I got to tell you, guys, check out her artwork and check out her book. And I got nothing for
No,
you.
that's not true. So I this is like the total love fest here, but he lectured earlier and I'd never really seen him do that. And I was like, what? Like, I mean, you're so funny on this show and you know your stuff, but to really just get to see you have a whole hour to do your thing, I was just super impressed. So
Thank you very much.
big love fest. You can tell we all love each other.
Yeah. And don't forget Katie Cook's 3-book series. It's a children book series, and they're amazing.
Yeah.
So she did have her books here too.
You're
And I
sweet.
love that you feature and target children because, I mean, not target children.
Target. Yeah, that sounds a bit weird.
Target
Yeah,
children.
target
What's on your
children.
mind, girl? Holy cow.
I
They're
mean,
opening their mind in a gentle way.
Yes.
You know, they're just so cute and they're illustrated so great, and I
Thank
just love
you.
them. I bought a set for my grandkids.
You're really
So,
sweet. Yeah,
yeah.
it's called Little Big Benny, and we sold a few today. So that was
That's
great. Yeah,
That's
that's always a good thing.
You know, I
Speaking
got to tell you, let me just say, I got to tell you at the festival here, unbelievable speakers that were there,
Mm.
unbelievable people who were all dressed up. They were just unbelievable.
Yeah, and
Did
honestly,
I get that right? Unbelievable.
unbelievable. Say it one more time.
Unbelievable.
And we're going to share a lot of pictures, you know, over the next few weeks for sure. Like, you know, we took so many pictures and video of this whole Pine Bush Festival. So we'll be sharing that. We're going to be loving on Pine Bush for the next month, basically, is the easiest way to put it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, I cut you off. So what
That's
were you
what I was
going
going to say, Katie. What do you have to kick us off
Well,
today?
yes, we always like to kick it off with a meme. I thought this one was cute. This says, for those of you just listening, we're from the planet Condescendia. Take us to your cute little leader. That was good. Aliens landing, talking to humans, being so condescending.
abduct them?
That's from Metzger. I thought that was really cute. And let's feature our pop of the week because we always do that. Our wonderful friend Wendy Robinson always makes a pop of the week. And I just thought this one was really cool. I think we actually have a video of this one, Amanda, if you can pull that up. It's a gray alien. It's pretty fierce looking. Do we have that one? It's okay if you can't find it. There it is. It's kind of spooky looking. I showed a green version of this a couple of weeks ago, and I love this one so much. So I was like, let's show the silver one this time. And of course, as always, you can order those at paranormalpops.com. And finally, I found a Mona Lisa alien t-shirt that I want to show you guys. And these are sold by On Cue Apparel. Yeah, so it's really an alien. We thought it was Mona Lisa, but they take the Mona Lisa mask off and reveal that it was an alien all along. And you can order those at oncueapparel.com. So that's all my little goodies. But we found a lot of goodies up here at the fair. So again, over the next few weeks, we'll be telling you guys about those. Well, Christopher DePerno.
Yes.
It's your turn for news.
We got the news for you this time. Welcome, everybody, to the news of the week. Oh, man, have I got some stuff for you. First of all, Jerry is on vacation with Jenna. I think they went to Alpha Centauri. I'm not sure where they are, but the two of them are gone. Hopefully, they'll be back next week. But anyways, let's get on with the news. What do we got in the news this week? Let me see here. What's a good story here? Oh, wait a minute. I got something here. All right. All right. A man says he's been abducted by aliens 60 times and forced to fight in their army. Bored with your life? Well, there may be hope. You still stand a chance of being selected as an alien super soldier trained to fight in the ongoing intergalactic war. Like we don't have enough problems here. Russ Ketled, a 58-year-old North Yorkshire, England, claims to have been abducted by aliens no less than 60 times and believes he's been fighting a race of 15-foot aliens since he was 28 years old. Okay, that's what a real super soldier, I guess, is supposed to look like. Enough of that. Russ says the first time was when I was 16, when he was traveling home on his motorbike. Russ went through a tunnel and he never seen before. And the next thing he knew, he was in what looked like a dentist surgery office with a 15-foot tall alien man, very much like Dracula without the sharp teeth surrounding me. You know what? I really considered my dentist Dracula too. So I gotta say for him, hey, that's what it is. Now, Russ stated I had some sort of tube pushed down my throat, and whatever liquid they pumped into me, it turned me into one of them super soldiers. You know what? I think I found the liquid he's talking about. Let's try it out. It's a can of black liver. man. Oh, I don't feel like a super soldier. I can tell you it didn't work. All right. Anyways, for the past 30 years, I have been part of their army fighting with the opposing race of aliens, the Dragos, which are tall and scaly. They have heads like dragons. Folks, let me show you what this guy is. Okay, take a look at him. If that guy is a super soldier, I'll eat my shorts. I don't care. He can't. There's no way he's a super soldier. I'm sorry, folks, but he's not. Russ described a room covered in checks, like a chessboard, as the place he goes to whenever he is abducting. He said he and his alien comrades use a glass ball located in the middle of this room, which can transport them through space and time. Russ now thinks he's a chronic fatigue syndrome case and post-traumatic stress disorder from his time involved in the space wars. Oh my God. Wait a minute. Let me show you this guy. This is what he's been fighting up there. Okay? I can tell you right now, that is an ugly cuss. And if I met something like that, I don't know. I don't know which one is uglier, to be honest with you. I might pick the alien and say, dude, come on with me. I don't know. Anyways, on top of this, Russ suspects his memory has been wiped by aliens who do not want him to remember fighting with them. If they wiped his memory, why is he telling this story? I can't figure that one out. Wait a minute. Let's take a look at one of those aliens. Now, let me tell you, folks, that's a 15-foot alien, whatever it is. He's got an M16. Now, I can tell you, if you got a 15-foot alien in an intergalactic war, you ain't using an M16, all right? Not a 223 round. For those who know what a 223 round ain't going to do it. He said there are so many different races, but all he struggles to remember the names of them all. I can only remember what they look like through the drawings I have these days. I wonder how much the drawings are going for, folks. This war has been brewing and toiling for years, and some of these aliens need help. People can be abducted at any time, and they need to prepare in such a scenario in case they are sent out to fight. Folks, if this guy is a super soldier, I'm going to tell the alien, look, I'm going to tenderize myself because I'll say, eat me now because we're going to lose. I can tell you that right now. All right, let's get on with this guy's video.
My role as a super soldier, basically, is to do as I'm told, and that is to find the enemy and destroy it. Hi, my name's Russ Kelly. I've been abducted by aliens at least 60 times. I first saw an alien when I was about 4 years old, looking out of the bedroom window into the back garden, and I saw what looked like a spaceman. On average, I would say that I've been abducted maybe 5 times in a year. The alien race that abduct me are tall, about 15 foot tall. They're human-like, with bald heads, but when I say human-like, the faces are a little bit like Nosferatu, but the teeth are not as fangy, but nevertheless, like human. There is a war going on around the universe and on this planet also by a number of different alien races. It's a little bit like what goes on this planet with humans. My role as a super soldier, basically, is to do as I'm told, and that is to find the enemy and destroy it. When we're abducted, sometimes it could be for half an hour, or sometimes it could be hours, maybe 2, 3 or 4 hours. Now, because we're using what you would call teleportation and time travel, what that means is that we could actually have been taken and away from our surroundings for years and then brought back. So, you know, people might not be able to get their head around this, and I'm sure as hell not going to disagree with them because it's hard for me as an abductee to understand it myself.
Listen, Tubby, if you think you're a super soldier, first of all, I can't see any fatigue fitting you. That's number one. Number two,
just like me, pal, I'm going to tell you right now, they ain't fitting you in your craft. And if they do, I bet you they got a weight limit before that ship takes off. All right, never mind. Enough with the super soldier craziness. Gray aliens are created from human DNA, says Pennsylvania ufologist professor. The so-called gray aliens, short men with large heads and a frail little body, are considered the most famous types of aliens. It is they who most often appear in the stories of abducted people. They are humanoids, that is, human creatures, and they have been many theories from ufologists in an attempt to explain who they are and why they look so similar to people at the same time so different. Some consider them real aliens arriving from other planets. Some consider them time travelers, representing people who have evolved over time. Some consider them as visitors from another dimension or other worlds. They say they are robots created by non-human aliens, and so on and so on and so on. Which, I guess from that statement, you could say, we don't know. Anyways, there's my man, Dr. Jacobs. He's the one that's involved with this. All right. So, there is even a completely bizarre theory explaining that the appearance of the grays are in fact a highly distorted image of a person perceived in childhood by newborn babies. That is, all abductions by aliens are supposedly just strange nightmares or lapses in consciousness. Okay, tell that to a person who's been abducted. One more version about the grays is stated by Professor of History at Temple University, Dr. David Jacobs. He says, Professor Jacobs has previously talked about the fact that aliens have been walking on Earth among people for a long time, like we didn't know, and that they are planning a full-scale invasion. Uh-oh, we better get the super soldiers. What are they? What do these guys look like? Yeah, okay. Recently, Jacobs talked about how the similarity of the grays to people is not accidental because they are probably specially created using human DNA, and this DNA was obtained from abducting people. Where's that picture? The tentacle breeding creatures from space. Good Lord. According to Jacobs, the grays communicate telepathically with the abducted, and no one has ever noticed that they were breathing. Now, this is a good point. Do aliens breathe? There is no evidence that they breathe. Although the abductees saw them very close to them, they don't see signs that they breathe. The fact is that these gray aliens probably have human DNA, which made them so much like us in their appearance, but do they breathe? Well, I don't know. And I don't know if Dr. Jacobs knows, but you know what? Let's roll this video.
Then there's the gray aliens. Some are small, and some are taller. The taller and the smaller gray aliens. These are the aliens that everybody knows and loves. This is the one you see on the sides of buses and on billboards and here and there. And they are just workers. They're all workers in this program. They are bred for a task. In my opinion, they are themselves hybrids. I won't go into why I think that, but there's fairly strong evidence for it, and in my opinion. And then there are hybrids. These are the babies who have grown up that people have seen. Some really look weird, like aliens. And when I say aliens, I mean gray aliens, not the praying mantis insectolens.
Right.
They are in the workforce. For example, the ones who look the most gray alienish, who have some hair and have a little tiny mouth, and they have black eyes, but they have some whites in their eyes. They take care of the youngest babies. That is what they do. That's their task. And other aliens, there's a whole sort of lineup of aliens who look more and more human. I call them early stage, middle stage, late stage, human stage. It's probably smoother than stages, but and then there's the ones who really, really, really look human, who are human. I call them hybrids. They are human, except for that one neurological situation. They can control us, and we can not control them. That's the one difference. All the rest is they look absolutely human in every way, and they've gone for the average. They are average height, average looking, wear average clothes, do not stand out, don't attract attention to themselves. Anybody on board a UFO who is being prepared to be set loose here, actually it's not quite like that, but to come down here, if there's anything odd about them in the slightest way, they're culled from the herd. They are not coming down here. So I can tell your listeners right off that if they think somebody is a hybrid and that they see from time to time, and they get that sense that he almost certainly is not.
Well, there's Dr. Jacobs. And let me tell you something, folks. Dr. Jacobs is no joke. I have a lot of respect for that man. Although some of his theories are really sometimes hard to prove, he does his homework and he does know what he's talking about. And folks, besides the super soldier story, that's the news for the week.
As always, Christopher DePerno delivering the news like nobody else can. Thank you, my friend.
Thank
Yes,
you. You're
thank you,
welcome.
Chris.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
And Jerry, too.
KDP, case of the week.
I do have a case of the week. So the case of the week this week is case number 119712. It's actually a category 1, but I think maybe it should have been a cat 2 case, but we can all see what everybody thinks about this. It's from Papillon, Nebraska, November 23rd, 2021, 5:49 p.m., the exact time, and that's important for a reason here. The wind speed was at 15 miles an hour. It was closed as an unknown UAV, and I shortened this, but basically a man and a wife were out hanging their Christmas lights, and they observed this large bright light moving far too fast to be an aircraft or a satellite or anything they have seen in his 23 years working around military aircraft. It had no navigation lights or strobes, was moving almost directly due north, slightly northeast. It was heading towards them, then changed direction suddenly over Omaha while recording through the front yard tree. A motion that is not possible to known craft. And I'll read to you after we watch the video of what the FI's conclusions were. But as you watch it, at first I thought it was just a steady moving, possibly aircraft or drone. But then it sort of changes direction. So let's roll that video and we'll see what you guys think of this. Huh.
Yeah, interesting.
Okay. Yeah, it's got
a
this
little
kind of,
shaky.
but it's got this like tumbling motion, right?
Yeah.
Like the whole time, but it also is kind of coming down. So
yeah,
I mean,
and then it kind of goes over and it tumbles, and it's just this. So it was steady coming in at first, and I thought, well, this might be an easy solvable case, but then it gets all kind of crazy and sporadic. So the
And there's
FI
the
in this
photo.
case said it was rather interesting for several reasons. He said it was a straight line path until later on the video where the light object started to maneuver in various directional changes, no strobe or flashing lights. So the FI did check flight radar 24, and that's why the exact time is important, because he was able to identify a craft. But here's what's interesting. If you watch right at the very end, plus the witness was Air Force. He worked on RC-135 reconnaissance and aircraft Boeing 707s for a long time. So this guy's familiar with aircraft. So that's really good. He's got a great witness. He said at the end of the video, another light comes into the frame.
yeah.
And so that's interesting too. And it just sort of sped off
I
as
wondered
well.
if
So
that
there
was
were
a plane
two
at
that came
first.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I know this guy. He's very credible. I mean, he obviously knows what planes are.
exactly.
So, I mean, that leads a lot of credibility to his story. And also, it does appear like it's acting very strange. It's not going, could be going against the wind there from what I see.
Mhm.
So, I mean, obviously, you have some unusual movement. I'd like to see that video analyzed.
Yes.
Give maybe our listeners an absolute on that. That's a very strange
Yeah.
thing. Good job on that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I like
Let's move that up to a cat 2 at least.
I think so.
Give it a second look.
All right. So
Did we catch up with Bob this week?
We did. And once again, Bob gives us a great video
Sure
and an
does.
analysis on what's going on in the international world. Sort of like a James Bond kind of guy.
Bob's awesome. And he was a speaker here as well and did an amazing job.
Really
We just
good
love
job.
Bob.
all right, let's roll that.
Hi, everybody. This is Bob Spearing, MUFON's Director of Investigations on the international side. And each week, Chris DePerno allows me to show you a video, a drawing, or a photograph of some incoming case just submitted to the MUFON case management system. This week, I have a video out of Egypt that was taken by two individuals driving in their car in a rainstorm. And we'll play it, and then I'll analyze the video after that. Let it roll.
هي غالبا في قفشه تكنولوجي معينه في الكاميرا ممكن تبقاش عندك او وات ايفر يعني. بس خليه بقى.
Okay. It's a very short video. What the witnesses did was they sent in 3 videos of essentially the same thing in front of their car in the same place, not moving. It looks like a classic blue metallic disc in the sky in front of them. But on closer observation, you will see that it is absolutely not moving, remaining in the same exact place in the windshield. We've had a lot of these lately. The most famous was the hoax case from Georgia several months ago, where an individual pilot claimed he was flying at 39,000 feet over Georgia, when in fact he was on the ground in Louis Armstrong Airport in New Orleans, and the giant boomerang that pilot claimed that he saw was really just the reflection of his cockpit console reflecting in his mirror at night. Essentially, that's what we have here. I'm still not quite sure what the reflection is, but without doubt, it is a reflection of something on his dashboard. And we can close this one out also as an IFO, identified flying object. That's it for this week. I'd like to thank Chris DePerno for having me on again. Hopefully, I will see you guys next week. Take care.
Okay. Mark, I suggest you sit down and we're going to put a picture of you to cover that little boo-boo. And so we are ready for Mark now. All right. Marc Dantonio in the house.
Is this not a great place? I mean, what a time today.
Yeah, it was fabulous, wasn't it, Mark?
Yeah, I do Pine Bush like every year, it seems. And I'm telling you, every year it gets a little better. It's unbelievable. I had so much fun. There's a lot of people. Your talk was great. Your talk was great. Your talk was amazing. I didn't even
Your talk was great. You had everybody on the edge of their seats with this new propulsion system, and I really want to get into that.
Yeah.
Well, there's some science out there that we can bring to bear to figure out how UFOs operate. So I did a talk that kind of lends itself to being able to understand how that might work. It's cool. It's new. And I think it's how they work.
It's a great theory. I got to tell you, folks, I listened to Marc Dantonio last night during the conference, and not only was it so scientific and well information there, but he's entertaining. You got to laugh and you got to just perk right up when he's talking, because he makes ufology so much fun.
Well, can you tell me how a lawnmower works? Because that's all I can hear right now.
I can tell you that the response of these microphones is probably such that the lawnmower that you guys are hearing in the background probably isn't so bad.
Oh, I hope so.
Your ears hear way more than these do. Yeah.
Well, let's just dive in, because I'm sure everyone at home is like, what are we talking about? What kind of propulsion system and all that? You brought up string theory last night as a way that these craft might be moving.
Yeah.
Blew my mind.
Yeah, there's a book out there written by a very good friend of mine named Bob Schroeder. It's called Solving the UFO Enigma. And Bob and I spent some time before I came out here, a couple hours, and I just went through what I wanted to talk about. And what it means is that if there's an object, a UFO, that's flying in our airspace, when you look at those, when you hear those reports, you hear reports of these things are shimmering, or they're vanishing, or they're changing colors, and they're fading out and fading in. And that's something that, to this point in time in history has always been, well, what's happening? How is it doing that, right?
Yeah. I know it'll choke you up. I mean, it's intense stuff.
You swallowed a bug?
Insect, yeah. Okay, we are outdoors. So the bottom line was when a ship like this flies in the atmosphere, it's not really flying. It's sort of just sitting there, right? They're hovering. So how that happens is, I think, and Bob Schroeder thinks, that the ship is a particle accelerator. That's why these ships are round. That's why triangles are what they are, because inside they probably have a particle accelerator ring. And this accelerator ring generates particles that live in another dimension. Sounds crazy, doesn't it? But it's not crazy. It's not what's really going on, because what's happening is these particles that are being generated actually pull the ship into this fifth dimension called the bulk, like bulk produce, BULK. And that actually allows the ship to enter this zone where the space it's in is now so warped that distances are really shortened down to nothing and time is slowed way down. Okay, so if that's the case, way down.
Okay. I want to make sure I got that right.
Is this the Mercury theory with the Mercury going around, or is that something different?
That's I think something different. Okay, but I will say that this particular theory, this string theory has a variation. It's called Randall-Sundrum 1. Ooh, okay, never mind the name. Okay, but it has to do with who discovered it, who thought about it. But the idea is that if the ship can oscillate back and forth from our X, Y, and Z, all moving through time, our 4 dimensions, if it can oscillate back and forth from there into the bulk and back again, it goes into the bulk. And as it goes into the bulk, suddenly, once there, most other places in the universe are available to it, and they can go there in a fairly quick order. So, as an example, what's concrete? Okay, you want to go to Alpha Centauri. Alpha Centauri, the light from Alpha Centauri takes 4.3 years to get here. It's 4.3 light years away. So, if a ship wanted to go there using this methodology, if it went into the bulk enough, the distance to Alpha Centauri gets shortened down to the equivalent, say, of a 20-mile drive.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Now that would mean it's 60 miles an hour. Okay, it's going to take you a very short time to get there, right? If you were flying at that speed, right? But you can go 20 miles very quickly. But a spacecraft like this, as a circular particle accelerator, has an issue. We have them too in our particle accelerators, and that issue happens to be a specific kind of radiation that's given off by these ships or by particle accelerators. Anytime you try to curve a beam around a corner and go in a circle, what it does is it gives off another radiation on the side called synchrotron radiation. Dangerous, deadly. You don't want to be there. Okay,
No,
but
bad for your health.
But these guys, these aliens, probably have figured out a way to deal with that. See. And so their ships might be 30 feet in diameter or so, and that is what this is all about. See, they would have to deal with that. We can't see that yet, but they might.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's cool.
You know, one of the things you brought up too was why aliens want to visit us. I thought that was fascinating when you started talking about, why they would be interested in our planet. Could you explain that?
Sure. I mean, if you think about it, okay, for those that didn't see it, okay, because it was streamed as well. For those that didn't see, we're made of carbon, right? And we use oxygen in order to build up energy in our systems and to do our biological functions. That's what it's all about. So carbon is the 4th most abundant element in the entire universe. Number 4. Number 3 is oxygen. And number 2 is helium. Number 1, hydrogen. So those top 4 are probably going to be involved. And certainly hydrogen, oxygen, and carbon are very, very involved in, for instance, DNA and other organic compounds. Now, there's so much oxygen in our atmosphere that's generated by life, phytoplankton, photosynthesis. In high school biology, you learned about respiration and transpiration. What plants do, they give off carbon dioxide, they suck in carbon dioxide and give off oxygen, right, at different times of the day and night, right, the day and night cycle. Well, those oxygenating plants build up this oxygen in our atmosphere. And if you're made of carbon somewhere in the universe, guess what? You're also probably using oxygen. So if you're looking for another place to go, a vacation home, you're on another star, you're probably going to go to a planet that has oxygen in the atmosphere. So what are you going to do? You're going to look for oxygen.
Right. And James Webb will be able to detect that.
That is so true.
Yeah.
In fact, the James Webb Telescope, it can't, you are smart. You are. All hail. Okay. You can't discount the James Webb because although it can't see oxygen directly, when oxygen atoms collide in an atmosphere, they create secondary compounds that can be seen by the James Webb. And based on how many of those secondary compounds are seen from all these collisional products, guess what? We can get an idea how much oxygen is in the atmosphere. This is so cool. I'm going out crazy. I'm crazy right now.
I know, it's very cool.
It's amazing.
It's exciting times.
So I was just going to say, so we're kind of like a flashing neon honky tonk sign.
For 2.5 billion years, we've been doing that. And Stephen Hawking said, and it's true. He said, and I'm sure your audience has heard this. He said, we should lie low under the radar. Let's hide. It's because we don't want the aliens to be, we don't want to announce our presence. We did too late. She says, too late. We did it 2.5 billion years ago. So any civilization, let's be conservative, that's only 500 light years away. Okay, we've been broadcasting for 2.5 billion years.
Yeah.
That means at the speed of light that these signals are going out, the trace of the oxygen coming in from light that you see. Remember, we're a pale blue dot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, that blue dot can be seen basically from as far away as you can see. Light diminishes, but you can still see it. Its range is infinite. Right? So what that means is if we are a pale blue dot, someone's going to see us. And they will have seen us up to, say, 2.5 billion light years away.
I mean,
that's beyond our
we
galaxy.
Ain't subtle.
Yeah.
So.
No.
Yeah. We're not subtle. Very good. That's a good way to put it.
We ain't
Katie Cook.
subtle. Sorry, you have a
No,
question.
go,
I'm so
go,
excited.
go.
I have all these questions for you. And I hope this isn't switching gears too much, but you talked last night about how, we always are like, are there bases on the moon? Who's hanging out on the moon? But you're like, nah, not really.
I don't think so. And the reason is because let's wear the alien hat. You're an advanced civilization. You find a planet where there's these organic life forms on it. They're carbon-based like you. But, they do things that might be harmful to you. They could hurt you possibly. So you're going to be cautious, right? So you might say, well, we can set up on the moon and watch them from a distance. Well, the thing is, you've come from so far away. You have the technology to go not just one better, but 1,000-fold better. You can set up right here on our planet and watch us from here.
Yeah.
Just like scientists that go to the Yukon to track elk and they hide in blinds, right? And they watch the elk and then they fire a tranquilizer dart, right? And they tag them. And then they wake up and the elk just walks away. Hey, we're okay. Got a radio collar. Ooh, where'd that come from? Right? I mean, we would notice radio collars. So obviously you hear about implants and other things, right?
Right.
Yeah. I feel I had one
Mm-hmm.
and I had to be surgically removed and it vanished from the hospital a week later.
They always do that.
Yeah.
You mentioned that. Where do you think they might be hiding then if they're looking at us from like a blind?
Yeah. And well, that's a very good point. Okay. The blind. What is the blind that they're using? Our researchers use those canvas blinds and they hide and they're going, see that, Phil? That's an elk over there. And they take pictures of it, right? And they look at it and they study its migration. Well, where would they hide to look at us? Well, I have said, and I mean this, they go where we are not, right? They go where we're not. And where we're not is in the deep ocean.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. And we've only studied 16% of the ocean. And those out there are saying, well, I've looked in Google Earth and I can see the ocean all around the world. I see the ocean floor. Yes, you do. But you see a very, very low resolution version. Some of it is actually, imagined and built up from previous terrain. That's how some of these artifacts that people say, look, an underwater submarine base, like the Malibu thing, that's an error in the data that shows that steep walled canyon that looks like it has columns. That's an error in the data. See? So, we've only looked at 16%.
Mark, you talked about two fascinating things about the ocean. One, that you talked about either a theory or something that actually happened about they were trying to use liquid oxygen to have divers go deeper. Is that a theory?
Well, not liquid oxygen. It was a super saturated solution of oxygen. And the idea was that if you could force it into your lungs, you basically drown, but you have a super saturated oxygen solution that would transfer the oxygen to your tissues. You couldn't just breathe it. because your lungs could never do that, right? You'd have to pump it. So it's a really elaborate apparatus, and there were some tests done with Navy divers to do this.
So they actually tried to test.
Oh, they did this. Yeah,
That sounds horrible.
it does. It does. But from what I understand, the test. I was gonna say this. The test people that actually did this, okay, they ended up with really horrible pneumonia because once that liquid's in your lungs, now you've effectively given yourself pneumonia, liquid in the lungs, fluid buildup. You got to get it out. Well, how do you get it out? Good
Doesn't
luck.
work
There's
that
so many alveoli in there. The whole point of it, though, and people say, well, why would you do that? Because if you could fill your sinuses and your lungs with a replacement liquid, say, because there's air in there now, if you replace the air with this liquid, well, then you could actually go like to full ocean depth.
Yeah,
Because-
your lungs wouldn't crush.
Yeah, that's right. You're not compressible beyond a certain amount. Sure, the weight is going to compress, and if you go too deep, well, sure, the bones will crack and crush, sure, from the weight, of course. But if you can actually go quite deep if you actually have liquid-filled lungs and sinuses, and that would actually be the kind of thing that would allow you to go really deep in the ocean. And I don't know why the program was started. I do know that it's no longer happening. Well, as far as I know.
Yeah.
Okay.
A dumb question of the show. Forgive me, but I mean, babies in the womb, do they have liquid in their lungs? I mean, how do they
I
survive?
believe that.
Or is it the umbilical cord?
Welcome to the paternity show.
You would think after having as many children as I have, I would know this, but I don't.
I would think so.
And
But
I did read that when I was
But
pregnant.
the fact
I
is that
remember that too.
remember the
Why
umbilicus.
can't we figure that
The
out?
umbilicus is actually transferring the mother's oxygenated
into the-
blood into the
okay.
baby as well. So
So that's like a breathing apparatus.
yeah,
Okay.
it is. It's a snorkel.
Yeah, snorkel.
Yeah, but they do suction everything out. Like there is some stuff that
Yeah, the mouth,
gets
and,
in
the
there.
mouth,
and-
and throat,
yeah,
and
when
the
they're
esophagus are filled with some amniotic fluid, obviously, right? And they go,
Yeah.
they pull it all
Yeah.
out. They'll do that gross thing.
and then they scream
Yeah.
as you do.
And they never stop.
Can I circle
they're
back
30.
to this possible way that they could be traveling here? So I mean, obviously
Yeah.
that we know that takes care of the time thing
Right.
because we're always like, how would they still be alive if it took that long to get here? Well, you're saying it doesn't have to take that long to get here. So could your theory also help with the whole kind of G-force question of like, we see these crazy maneuvers and we're like, you should be dead. How does
Yeah.
that work?
Yeah. Okay. First, it's not my theory. It's theory of a lot of people. And
I'm trying to give you credit.
I appreciate that, but I won't take other people's credit. Right?
Okay.
So this is to be fair about it, the G-force question, inertia,
Yeah.
the resistance to movement, right? That's inertia. How does that get dealt with in this situation? Well, the way it gets dealt with is the fact that the ship really isn't moving a whole lot of distance, right? Okay, and I'll tell you why. Because let's say it goes into the bulk. Well, now the distance has been so shortened that to you as an observer, you might watch this ship just suddenly go from here in the sky to there, just like that. You say, whoa, those guys must have had whiplash, as they went there. The difference, though, is when they go into the bulk, the distance to that spot is so minuscule that it's just a small little jump that they might not even feel. But it's that far in the real world when they actually come out of the bulk because now they're there. The way it works is they have let's call it a punch out point. Okay, that's a punch out point with a set of coordinates. Okay, we punched out from here. We go into the bulk, and now from inside the bulk, the universe is in front of us. And we have all these entry points that we could use because you see, we're aliens and we've made these great cartographic maps that show us these entry points back into the X, Y, and Z moving through time universe. So we punch out from one set of coordinates and punch into another.
Do we age?
Actually, that's a really good question. Based on relativity, we would probably, depending on how long we stayed in the bulk, we probably wouldn't age as much as we do when we're in the 4D world where our X, Y, and Z moving through time. It has to do with the fact that time is shortened and distances are shortened. There's a time dilation effect that will occur in there because that bulk thing I'm talking about is really highly warped.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's amazing, Mark.
Yeah.
We've only got about 5 minutes to break. We're all still buzzing a little bit from the congressional hearing.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, buzzing or not quite so buzzing about it, but I just don't know that we've talked to you since then. So I'd love to have your thoughts on where you think we are with it.
Well, I used to work I still do work for the Navy, but I do it now without a clearance, and I do it. That's intentional because it's a privacy thing, right? But I think that there's a lot of people that know a whole lot more that they're not talking about, right?
Mhm.
I felt that the people that were at the hearing should have been allowed to talk, but they were not. There were pilots there who had direct witness sightings. They weren't allowed to talk. Things like that. Just, are you just doing lip service again, guys? I mean, you had the Undersecretary of the Navy, you had the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence and Security. But these are the difference from the congressional disclosure in Washington that occurred a few years ago, where I was there, okay? And the difference from that to this is actually pretty monumental. The difference was that past one was old retired senators and congressmen who were paid to be there. This wasn't how it happened here. This was active duty personnel that were actually being questioned by senators, briefed by the Mutual UFO Network beforehand. Now, that is a huge difference. That means a lot. It means a lot. Now, for me, it's a question. There's UFOs and there's other types of high strangeness. I subscribe to both. I don't think there's just UFOs. I think that high strangeness is very important. Why? Because today's high strangeness might be tomorrow's science.
Bam.
Boom.
You got it.
Yes, I could not agree more. I think we all probably agree.
Mark, in that hearing, did you find that maybe there was some things that they just weren't briefed on? Or because I bring up the Maelstrom Air Force Base thing. I mean, even novice people know about Maelstrom. They're shutting off, especially something like that where they keep saying, well, this could be a national security threat. And here we have an incident where missile silos were shut down, and these two guys looked like they were deers in headlights. They looked at each other like, we don't know anything about that.
You know why? The reason that they didn't know anything about it is because for them that's ancient history, right?
But it's important history.
Yes, it is, but it's ancient history to them because most likely neither of them has ever dealt with this topic before that hearing. To be honest, these are guys that have they're politicians and as well as being defense personnel, okay? And politics comes first sometimes, and so they're more worried about the administration, their position, their programs, funding, right? They don't really care so much about this topic in general. What do they do for fun?
Yeah.
What do you guys do for fun, man? And it's like, do they golf?
Yeah, who knows?
I mean, I don't know.
Well, obviously, one guy loves his sci-fi. I don't know if he's dressing up in a Spock uniform.
He was there today. He was walking up and down Pine Bush today.
He was a cosplayer. Yeah, he walks around, dressed up as William Shatner. I don't believe it, whatever, right? But the point being, right, these guys represented to me. It did represent a change, even though we got very little out of it. And I'll say one more thing about that. It did represent a change. It represented a point where we have now got active duty people talking to active duty senators and congressmen. That wasn't what happened before.
No, it's just a bold-faced lie.
No. What I mean is, in the previous disclosure, that's not what we saw. We had senators and congressmen who were paid to be there.
Yeah.
And listen. You pay me, I'll listen.
It's an important step to make it.
I think so.
Less
Yes.
stigma to actually report a sighting
That's
for our
right.
military men and women and our pilots. So that's one good thing that came out of it.
I agree
think
with
so.
that.
Absolutely.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Destigmatize.
Now, with
They
this
said that over
happening-
and over.
With this happening now, Mark, what do you see the future in ufology with now this congressional hearing and how you laid it out, which is very interesting? Where do you see the ufology going now?
Well, where ufology is heading and has been heading is obviously we can say towards disclosure. And of course, people roll their eyes. Oh, here we go again. Disclosure. Yeah, right. Okay. It's happening slowly, whether you want to admit it or not. It's actually happening. Okay. Again, go back to that first disclosure hearing. It was almost a fiasco, right? It was a setup almost, right? Just to kind of say we're going to do disclosure, but it really didn't accomplish the task that this hearing, which was also very, unexciting, right? But the fact, again, that they were active duty in Congress, being questioned in Congress, on the floor of the Congress, that's very important, okay? But you got to understand, too, that when these guys were being asked these questions, many times they said, well, we'll talk about that in closed session, which comes right after this.
Yeah.
Now, having had
Good stuff.
having had a high clearance, I can tell you probably how that and why that went that way. Okay. You might like to say, well, that, and we would, because we have a conspiratorial side to us, right? Or else we wouldn't think that somebody's hiding anything. But they would say, well, I don't know. I think it maybe in that closed hearing, they're going to talk about the real technology they know about. Actually, I don't think that's true, sadly. I think what they're going to talk about is, well, this data was acquired using this system that we can't talk about publicly. Okay, so we can't show you the video without talking about the system that took it.
Yeah.
And this system is classified, And I've watched that happen over and over with programs I've worked on.
Absolutely.
So, but wait.
Oh,
wait, there's more.
But we've only got 10 seconds to break. So
okay.
how quick can you squeeze in the
The
more?
bottom line is that moving forward, we're going to see more and more people come forward to say, this has happened and we want to get answers. And that's what we're going to get.
Good
All
stuff.
right.
Good
Mark,
stuff.
thank you for being with us. And I'll tell you, every time you talk, it's always fascinating.
Well, you're a very good audience too when I talk, and you're also very accomplished speakers, each of you. So I think that's probably par for the course, right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're all the Mutual Admiration Society.
Yay.
But thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Mark. We'll be right back, right?
All right. To break.
To break we go.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
Scrolling all day, time can disappear. Wanna make it count? Why not volunteer?
Posting pics of your food, that takes up time. Time, you've got time to binge all of season 9, though it got so bad.
Time, you got time. We're gonna grow back and be the same browse you had.
Just a few hours to keep families from harm. Help us end home fires with Sound the Alarm.
Volunteer for a day to install free smoke alarms in your community.
Discover the Observation Deck, a one-of-a-kind virtual event platform that takes video conferencing to the next level by using avatars to navigate a campus. There's so many areas and activities to choose from. There's a 1,000-seat auditorium, an expo hall, a nightclub, and even a beach. So come attend a conference, take a class, or hear a lecture on the incredible Observation Deck campus. Go to theobservationdk.com.
You're listening to the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. We provide unparalleled coverage of trending news in the world of ufology, cryptozoology, and paranormal phenomenon. Whether you're watching our video live stream or listening to one of our audio programs, you are getting the best from world-renowned researchers and hosts, guiding you through topics the mainstream won't touch. Miss one of your favorite programs? No problem. Head over to the members area at kgradb.com for access to our massive library of award-winning content. Make contact, stay connected, only at kgradb.com.
We are back, and we are back with Martin Willis. Martin, is it true that was your first time speaking on the UFO topic? Because it was phenomenal. One of my favorites.
Wow.
The weekend. It was so good.
Well, thank you so much. Martin, you did a fantastic job. You were a pro up there. I got to tell you, I was so fascinated the way you interviewed. You showed video clips of people that you interviewed. And you get right to the point. I mean, you don't mix around. You let them talk, but you know when to ask the right questions. I was impressed.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It was a lot of fun. It's funny. I talk about antiques and fine art. You know, I've done a lot of those talks, like roadshow type situations. But I love UFOs, so it was easy for me to do it.
All right, my first question before Katie slugs me on the side here because I'm in her. Tell us, have you ever seen a UFO?
Oh yes, I had a UFO sighting. It was not. It's funny. I had a fireball sighting that was much more dramatic than my UFO sighting. I know that sounds odd, but the UFO it wasn't boring, but I mean I was baffled by what it was, but it just came over, stopped, and it was a disc like a size of the quarter or so, but it was perfectly shaped, had a blue glow around it, which I've never seen before. Do I have to get closer to the mic?
Oh, it probably wouldn't hurt. Yeah.
All right.
Well, but you don't have to be super close. Yeah.
So
there you go.
it had a blue glow around it, and then it just stopped, and then it headed toward Monterey, and that was basically it. It kept the same speed, never shot off or anything. But I was freaked out because there was no sound at all. And then when I started researching a few years later, and other people saying no sound, you know, I said, "Oh, geez, it's not uncommon." Ooh.
Were you the only one to see it, or were there other witnesses?
No, it was all by
Just
myself.
you. And
I was
that's
in a
hard
hot
sometimes.
tub by myself. And I tell you what, if I had a phone camera next to me, I would have never thought to pick it up.
Yeah,
because I was just glued right to it.
That happens all the time.
Happens a lot.
Yeah.
And of course, we had Martin on the show. Gosh, I don't know, 5 or 6 weeks ago or something.
Right.
I can't remember
Yeah.
exactly how long it's been now, but
Yeah.
but you know, we can't assume everybody watching got to see that episode. So we may
Yeah.
you know go over some of the same ground.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But I had a fireball sighting. I was maybe 18. I mean, I don't know what else to call it. It just literally looked like. I mean, I kind of looked like this huge meteor coming into the atmosphere, just like glowing, just color shooting off of it and everything.
I'll tell you mine because it's similar. If you like.
Okay.
So I'm in a hot tub again.
Of course you are.
This is.
You're seeing a lot of UFOs in hot tubs,
Yeah.
pal. Hey.
So this
Walking
is
the dogs and smoking cigarettes.
this is 1985, and I was married to my, let's see, which wife? No, I'm just kidding. So anyway, she's in the hot tub. She's facing me, and all of a sudden I see this. I've told Marc Dantonio about this. Saw this big ball. It looked like it was perfectly round to me.
Mm-hmm.
It was rotating. I could see cracks. Through the cracks, I could see like orange, you know, like a glow, and sparks were flying off of it.
Yeah.
And it was huge, and it was heading. I thought it was going to go right in. I was 3 miles from the Atlantic Ocean. I thought it was going right into the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I talked to someone, a friend the next day, he said, "Hey, CNN, there was something about something UFO. I mean, not UFO. Here I am. It's on my mind. Fireball or meteor landed in China, a major one. So I don't know if that was the same one, but it would be quite a coincidence.
Yeah.
I mean, it looked
expected
really
the
low
earth
to me.
to shake when I saw this thing coming down. I thought, okay, I live in Nashville, and I thought half of the town is being wiped out by this thing. It was huge, and then nothing, no impact, no sound, nothing. And I ran home, put the news on, nothing.
Again, it
Nothing
probably
on the
landed
news.
far away. Probably landed.
I guess so. It seemed huge, you
Yeah.
know, but so one thing I love about you is it seems like wherever you go, people just know to tell you their stories. They'll
Yeah.
see something, you've got UFO or something on your hat or whatever, but they just love opening up to you.
Yeah. Well, you know, it is a lot of times I'm wearing a t-shirt or whatever when that happens, but not always. It's really something when I start to talk to people and they're talking like casually or something you feel comfortable with them, then all of a sudden I'll say, "Hey, you know what?" Sometimes I'll just say, "Hey, you know what? Something kind of strange maybe to you or not, but I do a show on UFOs." And I swear 50% of the time, "Oh, my cousin," or "Oh, you can't believe what I saw,"
Yeah.
or something like that. And I'm never afraid to ask someone. But as a professional, when I'm like in a house doing an appraisal, there's only been a couple of times that I felt comfortable doing that.
Mm.
Otherwise, I've always felt like I'll never go there.
Yeah, I get
You know.
that.
Martin, one of the things that I thought was pretty impressive, and I was told this, and then I tried to find the podcast, and I did. You actually stopped a witness talking because you said you're not credible, and you said, "I'm sorry, you're gone," which I thought was amazing because a lot of shows say, oh, I just want to be entertaining and I don't care what he says and he can go through different together. You said, no, wait a minute. I'm sorry. This is my listeners are not going to listen to this. And I thought that was so impressive that you wanted to stay with integrity and you wanted to stay with that. So
Thank you.
kudos to you.
I've done it 2 times now.
I didn't hear about
Unfortunately,
two.
there's another time, and I did not want to do it, but the woman, I let her get away with. She was saying that the beings taught her how to fly the craft, and she was flying them through the rings of Saturn. Okay, so I kind of let that. I was kind of like rolling with it, and then she started talking about there's going to be an electromagnetic. Or what do you call it? I'm trying to think of when the sun has those flares. They're called
Like
an
CME?
ejection, solar mass ejection,
Coronal mass
whatever it is.
ejection.
And she started telling. She said, everyone listening to this right now has to take in your house, pull out all the wires.
Oh no.
Take out all the wires. You have to get rid of all the wires and start to grow potatoes. This is coming. And she said, science is telling this is going to happen. So I said, who's your scientist? And she said, well, he's not really a scientist, but he has a YouTube channel. And I said, okay. So I ended the show. It was a 2-hour show. I ended it at the top of the hour. And they're looking at me like, what's going on here? And then I had Bill, I think what I did is, I can't remember I think I just ended the show and had Bill put on another show. And I talked to them both. I said, I can't have that. I can't have you saying, pull wires out of your house, everybody.
Yeah.
And all this other stuff. So I vanished the show like it never existed. I deleted it off of YouTube, off of all the podcasts and everything. Then I called my good friend Marc Dantonio, and he did a show with me that week.
Nice.
He did? And you didn't pull him, did you?
I've been thinking about it, but yeah.
So that was going on live when you did that.
Yes,
Oh, wow.
I was live.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
So, and I was blindsided because she was on with a guest who's been on many times, and he's always been really good. And he brought her along with him. He's all buying her story, and good for him.
Well, let's hope next week we don't go, oh, I should have planted those potatoes.
When was that date she
Totally
predicted?
right.
It's probably passed. We're
Yeah.
probably good.
I hope it's passed. You know, one thing you talked about in your lecture here at Pine Bush is how often people just have such strange behavior. Well, you showed a couple videos that kind of illustrated this. So often contactees and experiencers are like, I just did the weirdest thing afterwards.
Ice cream.
And yeah, I'm going to just say ice cream and let you go.
Yeah.
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 That's
Can
a
you tell that
fabulous
story?
That was a great
Yeah.
story.
Well, this guy, I mean, he was totally credible. I talked to him for quite a while before I recorded him. And his name's Albert Wayne. He's in, I think, Connecticut. And when he was young, he had this sighting, and it was absolutely incredible. He was with his girlfriend. He thought a plane was coming in, and he saw the lights coming in, and then thought it was going to crash because it was too low. And all of a sudden, whatever it was stopped. And then it was a odd-shaped craft. It had like 4 points, and on each point, it had like a rod with a ball on it. And then it had a midsection with a yellow band, and it was stopped over some trees. This was off I-95, pine trees, and they were waving back and forth under it like it was a hurricane, and which I think is pretty interesting. So everyone pulls over off. There was a whole line of cars that pulled over on I-95. They're all watching this thing, and they said, and almost like instantly, like, it was all of a sudden he just looks up and there it is above him, and he looks and he sees these amber windows, and there's silhouettes of beings like looking down. He remembers looking up at him, and a little part I edited out because he went into quite a bit. He says, I never really believed anybody when they said they were having telepathy. That I just could never buy that part of it. But he said all of a sudden he had this thought in his head where everything's okay. We're just looking at you.
And wasn't there a whole line of cars?
Whole line of cars.
Everybody got off on
No,
the
I'm
same
gonna tell.
exit?
I'll tell that for a
Yeah,
second.
tell
So
that.
then,
It's crazy.
so that
That's
happens,
so good.
and then all of a sudden, just like it wasn't over them, it's over back where it was exactly, and the trees are waving back and forth again, and then it vanishes. So he looks over at his girlfriend. He says, "It's all right. Let's go get some ice cream." And so he gets on the highway, I-95, and the cars are all getting on 95. All the cars that stop, they're all getting on 95. Everyone pulls off the first exit. Everyone pulls into the Howard Johnsons, and they walk like zombies into the door. And there was someone else there at the counter that said, "Did you see the beings?" So,
And they all got ice cream.
As far as I know, they all got ice cream.
Now, here's the biggest question. What flavor?
Did the aliens
banana split.
Wow.
Mint chocolate
So-
chip for me.
I guess whatever it is has a sense of humor, don't you think?
Yeah, big sense of humor.
Yeah.
He said, that's incredible.
I love that a lot of your stories too were kind of from my favorite decade, the 70s, and
Yeah.
a lot of these had commonalities that
Didn't they?
weave through them.
Yes.
And I love that because I think that's what we're all looking for, right? From each other, and that's why you come to things like Pine Bush, so you can talk to people, learn their stories, and find those commonalities. So
Yeah.
I just thought that was great.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, the woman Denise later on, she talks about the amber windows and
Right, and the beans.
the beings behind them, and a very similar shaped craft too. If you notice her say that, yeah.
I would love Michael Schratt to sketch
Yes.
that because it's so
Yeah.
unusual, the appendages with the balls of light,
Yeah.
and he is so talented in recreating those drawings of these obscure reports that we really don't know a lot about, and to illustrate them like that and very visual, and I just think that's amazing. So that's
Yeah.
what he should definitely do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Martin, what did you take away from the Pine Bush Festival? Well, I mean, what was something that you said, wow, that's really cool, or that's something I'm going to remember?
Well, this is the second year I've been here, and I think it's great that a lot of things happened here. There's always, when there's a fair, there's always like all types of elements, like you can buy the blow up aliens and stuff like that, and people wearing tinfoil hats and being having fun.
Yeah.
But it's also keeping the tradition of what's happened here over the years, and a lot has happened here. It's like an epicenter in Pine Bush. It's keeping it alive, and it's getting other people curious, like, well, why is this here? And so maybe the younger generation will look into it. Maybe they'll walk into the museum, which they really show what really happened, all these different things, cases laid out that happened over the years. So I think it'll bring, I think the best part of it is that it brings, younger people, which I'm glad are getting involved
Yeah.
and looking at this topic.
Well, and
Because,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah.
I was just going to say the fun element, I think part of the reason it's actually important for that to be there is because a lot of people, if they think it's all science, they can get a little intimidated, and they can just think, oh, I just don't understand all that stuff. But when you have a fun atmosphere and you bring everybody in, then somebody's a little more likely to be like, well, I did see something weird once,
Like that girl that came up during the Hudson Valley when it was really the waves. Her and her friends were all in high school, and she approached the table, and Katie and I were sitting there and just kind of poured out, and she felt very comfortable to talk about it. And I think you're right. That's why it's so important, and to connect with others, and just incredible story.
Make
that
it
she went through.
approachable.
Yeah.
It needs to be an approachable topic. It needs to be something that anyone can discuss in the middle of a Thanksgiving dinner, with their family. We can't make it so like, oh, well, we exist in this little elitist group over here, and you have to understand how the craft could possibly work and all that. And no, you don't.
Right.
Did you see something weird? Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
So I think the more we just make it less weird, the better. I'd love to get your take on how you've seen people's lives change after contact. And side note, some people may have had contact their whole life, but they remember it for the first time when they're 42 and they're, whatever. We don't always know if somebody's only had that one incident, but I feel like most people, it does trigger something. It kind of wakes them up and they almost have a new mission.
Yeah. I mean, I told that one story about the gentleman that I shared the office with that had, to me, that was the most incredible encounter he had. This box comes in, he's witnessing with everyone else. It flies up toward the mountain range. Fighter jet comes. It bursts into 5 lights. Now, the only time I told this to Charles Halt of the Rendlesham Forest, and he said, what I saw turned into 5 lights as well. And then they blinked in sequence, and then the lights in formation shot off, and the jet gave up chase. And when I said, "How did that change your life?" And he said he could care less.
So there goes my theory.
So no, there are those people.
Yeah, I guess so.
And I can't really gauge that too well because I really don't know. There's not a lot of cases where I knew someone prior to having their experience. So the only thing I can say is that, here we are. Maybe some of you have or have not had some type of encounter, but a lot of times it will change people's lives to, look into the topic.
Yeah. At the same time, though, you can learn some mind-blowing information. I mean, you hear some things about S4 or something, and at the end of the day, you still got to go buy creamer for your coffee and go to work the next day.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of interesting that way, don't you think?
Well, I think you take away a lot from a festival like that, not only on the scientific side, but it's so entertaining too.
Right.
So you have such a mixture. I watched some guy in a gorilla outfit with a space hat on walking around, and first of all, it was hotter than hell today.
Yeah.
And I go, how is this guy still standing? It was very entertaining that way. But then you hear the lectures like your lecture, and you're just absolutely mesmerized with the information that you put out there that you've never heard before. I've never heard before. And I just think you take so much away from a festival like this, as far as information wise goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Why does everybody say it was the size of a football field?
Yeah.
You hear that so much.
I mean,
don't
literally,
you?
did the aliens go, they like football? Let's just put that
You're
in
right.
their head.
They don't
How many
say-
times can we hear that?
I mean, from that random guy that bought my washer and dryer says the same thing. The triangle was the size of football field. You're right.
I hear it
I've
over
heard you hear that
and
over and over.
I
I
never
never.
heard anybody say that it's the size of a Mazda Miata. You're right. You're absolutely right.
It was the exact
I
size
guess,
of a Pizza Hut.
I guess
No,
if something is
football
really
field.
large, it'd be kind of hard to describe it. You have to picture something really large. You can't say the size of a mall because malls are all different sizes, or
Yeah.
size of, I don't know what else you can compare it to for a very large size. So
I guess so.
maybe that's the reasoning.
But it's kind of a shocking amount of people
that is
describe
so
it
Yes.
as a football field.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and yeah, I'm thinking, well, that would take up the whole sky.
Yeah.
It's
Where
wild.
do you think ufology is going now, Martin?
Well, I feel like it's,
I have to disclose this congressional hearing and stuff. Where do you think we're going?
I feel like it's going in the right direction. I just feel like the last few years, and I feel, a lot of people were disappointed by the hearing. And Katie, you made a really good point today. That, what was the word they kept saying?
Destigmatize.
Destigmatize. They said that word a lot. And I loved hearing that at that hearing, because that has been the problem.
Absolutely.
The stigma of, I can't report this. Like I mentioned the pilot I sat next to at American Airlines, when he was in the Air Force, he said absolutely no way was he going to report this green ball following him for 300 miles. There was no way he was ever going to report it. Now, if he was flying right now, he'd feel comfortable to report that. And then maybe they can do research to find out what it was, or there's going to be that now if it's destigmatized. So that is just going to move forward to, we may never find out what things are, UFOs are, but at least I feel like we're going in the right direction of not making it a taboo subject and something that people can study. I think science is going to start looking at what they are. Maybe we'll know what they are eventually. I really don't think we will for a while, but I still think it's going in the right direction. That's what I think.
Hence, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, people still have that fear because during the festival today, people came up to Katie. I know they came up to me and Cookie, and I said, "Hey, why don't you make a report?" Oh no, I'm not going to do that. But I'll tell you about the story. But I'm not going to make any report. I'm not going to put anything down. And I think you're right. I think Cookie hit it right on the head.
Yeah. I like when you said, that's why we changed it to UAP, and then they ask, what is UAP? And you have to say, well, it's a UFO.
Yeah.
But it's that tinfoil hat element. Yes, Kate, I agree, Katie, that it is important and to make it fun and accessible for people and interested, and the kids interested and make it fun. But also we need to tone down that tinfoil hat, and so it is taken serious. So it's this really delicate balance, I think.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I see it both ways.
I do too.
But I think as long as it's an approachable subject, more
Exactly.
people will eventually tell their stories. And frankly, I do actually really like dressing up like an alien
I do too.
too.
We need fun.
I have a
Especially in
silver
this day and age,
suit.
we need to all have fun.
And I actually really, I pull out the green eyeshadow and I really do have a blast with
Did you
it.
see
So
the reptilian that came by? I mean, it was
like
Oh yes, I
full
saw that.
on.
Yeah,
Reptilian
it was
is
The horn
great.
sticking up. Yeah, that was good.
We've
was
got
really
about 10 minutes until our next guest. So another 10 minutes with you. So we can still fit in a few things. I'm curious because you've conducted so many interviews at
Yes.
this point. Like, are you any closer to feeling like you know what's going on, or does it just
Oh, absolutely
truly
not.
open more questions?
Just yeah. I mean, I feel like I don't know anything more. But I love some of the theories. Some of the theories I had never thought of, but it doesn't mean they're right.
Yeah, we
You know what I mean? So that's why I don't know any more than I did, but I know more theories.
So there's a lot in your head because that's what I feel. I feel like I keep adding files to my brain of
Yeah.
new theories, new ideas, and I'm like, oh, I've got this huge library, but I'm not willing to say any of it's 100% right. I don't know. So I think I agree with you. It's like, oh yeah, I've got a whole lot of knowledge. I mean, if somebody wants to say, tell me what's going on with UFOs, I'm not going to say, okay, yeah, I got 10 minutes. It's like block out the next 3 days and I'm
Yeah.
going to talk your head off.
And that's something.
But
I
maybe none
really
of it's
like.
true.
That's something I really like. Both you, Katie, and you, Martin, really express that. If somebody's up there trying to give you like they know all the answers,
Run away. Yeah.
Run the other direction because
Yeah.
nobody has all the answers.
They don't.
So I really like that you both stress that. It's so important.
Well, I just feel like if I think I know it all, I'm going to miss something.
Yeah.
I feel like it's like putting blinders on. I really do. And again, like I said earlier, I mean, the one thing that is a constant on
It's
Earth
change.
and humans
Change.
it is change. It's the one thing we can count on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even if we literally were downloaded with all the information right now, it would probably blow our mind. God, give it a week. I mean, who else is going to buzz by Earth and go, okay,
And
I'm
the
gonna come down
ETs
there
are
and check it
changing
out?
too. I think we see changes through the decades, and I look back and I love historical cases, and there were a lot of landings and people fixing craft and ETs out on the ground and those kind of things, like in the 70s and the 60s. And you don't hear that so much anymore. You're hearing the tic tacs and the orbs and those kind of things. Woo! Let there be light.
We just had a light turn on, and that's
Well,
good.
Woo! Just the ETs.
One of the things that I took away when we talk about ufology now, really coming into a serious science as we were starting to try to find this stuff out. Marc Dantonio said something that I thought was just absolutely amazing. He said, what we think is high strangeness now, 20 years from now is going to be science. And we have to take that into effect. We have to look at things now and say, will this eventually become a science? Will this eventually become a norm?
Yeah.
And I think that's very important in ufology nowadays.
Yeah, that's Mark has a lot of great stuff. He says a lot of things that really make sense. He's one of my favorite guests. Yeah.
So,
I agree.
I enjoy talking to Mark. He always comes up with something that's very interesting and makes you start to twizzle your brain in different directions, trying to figure out what he's
But he
saying.
also makes it easy enough to understand if you don't really understand. That's what I really like. Like that topic he brought up last night, that was really tough. He could have lost a lot of people if they want to really, the technical part of it, but he made it easy to understand.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what you have to do sometimes.
Who was your favorite guest? Who did you have on? I got to put him on the spot. Yeah. I'm going to put him on because Martin can handle it.
He's only interviewed like 500 people or
Well,
something.
then he ought to be able to pick one, don't you think?
As now, I just mentioned Mark's right up there. He's right up there.
I'll forget about him. Let's do somebody else.
Is he over there?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not
He's
going to look.
looking at you.
But my favorite repeat guest, I'd have to say, is David Marler.
Yeah.
Good choice.
So, but I had some guests on that have just blown me away. Sean Cahill was on recently, and he was absolutely incredible. And I've had a lot of guests that I thought were really, really incredible.
Now you interviewed Lou Elizondo and I believe his cohort, right?
Chris Mellon.
Yes.
I was the first one to interview Chris.
What'd you think of that?
It was back in 2015, I think, or 16. He was really, really good. He had all these like rules and things, you know, back then, and then he felt comfortable, and then he started calling me, and we would chat a lot and stuff like that. And then once he got into the To the Stars Academy and stuff like that, they had him buttoned right up so he wouldn't communicate. So we stopped our communication, and then we occasionally write an email back and forth, but that's it. So he's done a lot. I think both of them, Lou Elizondo and him, there's some controversy out there, you know, about Lou a little bit here and there. And I'm still in touch with his wife, and she's, you know, there's a lot of things going around. But the bottom line is, I don't think this hearing may have happened at all if it wasn't for those two guys.
Why now? Yeah, why is it happening now?
And that's funny. That was one of Stan Friedman said when that was his question. Why now?
Why now?
He was asking why now. And I don't know why now. That's a really good question. And a lot of times, you know, the question is the important thing, is to figure out what to ask.
Yeah.
But why now? Who to ask that to? I
What's
don't
the
know.
agenda? What's the agenda?
Yeah. And, you know, we've so many times in this field, everyone's been let down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like something will happen and they feel like we're really going somewhere, and then the Roswell slides. Do you remember that fiasco? You know, like, oh, we're gonna see real pictures of aliens, and oh, it's a mummy. You know, and then people get invested. You know, I'm not a Bob Lazar fan. I'll tell you that.
Okay.
I don't believe in Bob Lazar's
Really?
story. I just don't.
Okay.
And there's a lot of reasons why. But there's some people so invested in Bob Lazar that they will never back off. They will just ride it all the way until, you know, a place.
And you know, Martin, that's why I really like you as a guest, because you're not afraid to say, I don't really think much about Bob Lazar. I'm not quite sure about his story. I'm not quite sure about other stuff that goes on. You challenge it.
Well,
you want to see evidence.
I'll tell you if it's okay.
Yeah, no,
I'll just
we've
tell
got a
you the
couple
reason
minutes
why
till
I'm
our
saying
next
it.
guest. I'd
First
love
of all,
to hear it.
as an appraiser, I'm just saying, as a fine art appraiser, if I go into a house and they have a nice collection of paintings, and the first one I go to look at, and I'm really examining it, and I figure out it's a fake. Now I'm going to have to really inspect all the other paintings to make sure, even if they're not low money value.
Mm-hmm.
So once you have one part of your story is bad, how can you expect to believe the rest of the story? MIT never happened. I know someone that is in records there. They said it's absolutely impossible for the government to come in there and expunge every single record. It just can't be done. There's so many repetitive things. They just could not wipe him out. He's in a public forum. He's asked, what is the square right outside of MIT? If you ever visited MIT for one day, you would know that it's Kendall Square or Kenwood Square, one or the other. I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't go to MIT. But anyway, you would know that square is there. He had no clue. There's no students that say, oh, yes, I went to MIT with Bob Lazar. Okay, Caltech, same thing. If he is not truthful about those two things, then how can we trust everything else that he says?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, there's the body language panel that they watch his videos over the years, and at the end they go,
Mm.
So I just don't think they're, even though people are so invested in him,
They are. Yeah.
I don't think there's anything to Bob Lazar.
Interesting.
I think he's really good. I think he's really intelligent. And I won't say anything that's going to get me in too much trouble. But.
No, I get it.
I think it's important that you challenge these things. If ufology is going to advance, we need people like Martin Willis and other people like Marc Dantonio is another one too. I keep bringing him up. I don't know why.
Somebody's got a crush.
Yeah, man crush. Well, I can't stop that. Anyways, but you need people to challenge the data that's coming out and saying, I'm not sure. I want to make sure this is right. So I'm going to challenge you. Because if we go along with every story that's out there, I mean, it's that will crush ufology. It will crush all the hard work that other people are doing. So it's really good to have professionals
John Greenwald's out there.
yeah,
John
and be able to say, I'm sorry, you're going to have to prove this to me. I'm not going to take you at face value.
Yeah.
Has any? I wonder how John Greenwald weighs in on the Wilson document. That's something I'm not familiar with.
You know, and that's an interesting thing. And I'm sorry, I just want to just say this.
No, we're
that the Wilson document, there's controversy back and forth. And I mean, obviously, we know there's an Admiral Wilson. Now, did a thing take place between Eric Davis and Admiral Wilson in the back of a car because he wasn't allowed access to a special program? Well, there's some ufologists that say absolutely bang on the table. No, I know it's for sure. And then there's some ufologists that say, I'm sorry, you haven't proven it yet. It may be nothing but garbage.
I'm with those guys.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's very important.
They have to prove it, and then you know, a little inside that the ones I probably shouldn't just say anything, but I'm really on the side that it's not right.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, thank you, Martin. That's a good segue into our next guest.
Yes.
So, yeah,
Thank you,
excellent.
Martin,
Thank you for
so
being here.
much.
Yes.
We have
And I don't have a crush on Marc Dantonio.
All right, so the next speaker that we rounded up is Kristan Harris. Kristan, you spoke this afternoon, and it was absolutely captivating to me. These new documents. So I bought me a copy, the William Cooper documents. Do you kind of want to?
Well, I mean, listen, first of all, I do a show called The Rundown Live.
Yes,
I've been doing talk radio for 12 years. I'm a nationally acclaimed reporter. I've been sourced by everything from CNN, Fox, GQ. I could just go on and on, all the places that have used my material over the last 2 years. Essentially, I find myself and I identify mostly as an esotericist, somebody that researches things and hidden things that are unknown. And one of the things I wanted to get an answer to that was very heavily involved, not only in UFO culture, but conspiracy culture, is the death of William Milton Cooper, who was a very influential person in UFOlogy, as well as in conspiracy culture. And some people might call it independent mind thinking and globalism. And so the story of William Cooper is kind of sad for many reasons. There's a lot of people that have a lot of issues with William because as a person that was out there when he drank, he was a vile, vicious drunk, especially against his colleagues. But that doesn't mean the information or a lot of his research was in fact disingenuous or incorrect. So I filed a Freedom of Information Act with the FBI, trying to figure out around his death or surrounding his death. It was very mysterious. He was shot by law enforcement, and the idea was that he owed back taxes and refused to pay, and that's why they killed him. So I filed a FOIA, and I got 300 pages back from the FBI. Right, those 300 pages were more around the Oklahoma City bombing, how he believed it was a false flag. This is just a side story. This really doesn't have to tie into the UFO stuff, but it's important that you guys understand the foundation of where we're going with this. So since I filed that and he has such a religious following, people started to reach out, right? And some of them are prominent people, some of them are famous people, some of them are average people like you and me. But one of those individuals was a son of a former Secret Service agent for George H.W. Bush, and he showed me photographs upon photographs, his walls covered with this individual who is his father. And he said when William Cooper was killed by law enforcement, he mailed all these vanilla envelopes. Within those manila envelopes that he sent to people that were in Secret Service, amongst other government positions, was this document, which is entitled The Indictment of MJ-12, which is his reverse hypnosis document explaining what he saw as a naval fleet commander, including government documents. And as we know, it was very controversial because he was a whistleblower specifically around under USOs, underwater UFOs. And listen, I'm a person that's a reporter that deals mostly with day-to-day news. I'm not a UFO person, quite honestly. I'm just gonna be honest with you guys. I'm a skeptic a little bit. However,
nothing wrong with that.
I've learned that there is a phenomenon happening in the world today. There are multiple unexplained events, unidentified flying objects, or like they said, they're trying to normalize it now, UAPs, because UFO has a stigma about it. And if you said UFO before, just change that language around to UAP and you're cool again. That's what it really comes down to, right?
Absolutely.
And we got to change that stigma is what they were running with, because we can't have people believing the old narrative, because what those people are saying is not correct, but what we say, the government, is correct. So there's a danger there when we talk about switching definitions and bringing and pivoting that language. Now, I understand the government's intent, because they want people to take it seriously, and they're saying, hey, let's pivot it. But at the same point, we have to understand that they're going to use that and weaponize that term.
Absolutely. And they want to control the narrative too.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So long story short, an individual contacted me because I filed the FOIA on William Cooper, and he was a follower of him because his father received this manila envelope, and his father believed in this manila envelope, and it was the indictment of an organization I've never heard of called MJ12. But when I did research, I found it's a very prominent conspiracy, along with everything in this document that William Cooper submitted to the government, that was signed and notarized by a lawyer who is still alive today. I verified in Las Vegas, because of course I'd want to verify that this document is legitimate, and I'm not just blowing wind up here, you know.
Yeah.
We get enough of that.
Right. So I'm one of those people that is very controversial, because when I bring product to the table, it's usually very controversial, but it's very disprovable, or it's going to go one way or
What did you
another.
think when you first saw the documents and you started saying, what is this MJ12? I mean, because that's a fabulous thing.
I started thinking Star Trek. I'm like, what am I reading here? Like there's Captain Spock, not Captain Spock, Captain Kirk and Spock and everyone else. But in reality, I started to think, what if? What if William Cooper could have been right on at least, let's say, like I hear people talk about in absolutes. If they make a mistake, then everything they say is wrong. I get that. I get that line of thought. But in reality, none of us are perfect. We all make mistakes. If we're going to hold people to the standard that they can't make mistakes and everything they say is perfect, otherwise anything else they say is questionable. Let's be honest, everything is questionable. It doesn't matter if you're right or wrong.
Especially
Everything
in this
should,
field.
Yeah, right. Everything should be questionable. Okay. And if we can't ask a question, we have to ask, why is it that we're not being allowed to, and why is it being ordained as canon law, when in all reality we should be able to have a debate about it. So when I looked at this document, I was very struggling with the logical fallacies and cognitive dissonance. Much like when you believe something your whole life and you start to see contradicting evidence to support that theory, you have to deal with that. I mean, let's be honest, that's real life. Right.
Yeah.
And this was one of those documents where it was so far out there, I didn't want to deal with it. And I had this document for years and years and years and years and years, and I've sat on it because I was like, there's no way that I can support this document.
Scaring you? And because you're not scary. I mean, you don't scare me.
It's fantastic. It's the idea. Like, listen, you're right. I'm not a scary person.
No, you've done some incredible things.
I'm not afraid of death. Obviously, I was a witness in a Kyle Rittenhouse trial.
Yeah,
I was within 30 feet of people being shot. Like, listen, it was the fact that I was scared of giving misinformation. And what happened is I was like sitting on this, and I'm like, I've read this, and my whole life I've been a researcher, not only of just news, but I've also have listened to William Cooper's Hour of the Time, which he's had thousands of hours of 3,000 to 4,000 hours of episodes. It was one of the most popular underground shows that we can talk about in the 80s and 90s. And this guy did more without the internet than I can do with the internet. And it blows my mind. Not that he's right all the time, but William Cooper in his show Hour of the Time brought a lot of valuable information. And I needed the evidence to support this document before I brought it out to the public.
And did you become a believer in this document?
Well, okay, yes. So great question, Chris. And Katie, I appreciate you guys. So it was interesting because all of a sudden we saw recently where the Israeli Minister of Defense came out and said we had a secret treaty, and Trump knows about it. The American government has a treaty with the Galactic Federation.
Mm-hmm.
And we've all heard of the Galactic Federation of Light and Palladian and Reptilian, and Commander Ashtar is gonna come out with his hammer of light and save the world. But we laugh. I get it. But people believe this stuff. They do, and it's okay. I support people's right to believe whatever they want as long as they can root it in factual evidence. And it's true to them. We all have our own truths. But in this document, it started to dive into secret agreements between our government and alleged aliens that allowed them to have a list of people they were going to abduct, a list of animals and different livestock they could abduct. Mm-hmm. And our government knew about it. And it was believed by William Cooper in this document that this was going on. And what we see now is we see Israeli Prime Minister of Defense coming on saying, yeah, we knew about this. We have agreements with them. Well, what are these agreements? How come we don't know about them? This is our government. We vote for these people to represent us. Why are we not being part of this process?
Well, Kristen, isn't it scary that a U.S. government would say, we're going to play with your life and saying it's okay for these people to abduct you? Because I look at abduction sometimes as kidnapping and assault.
Well,
you take me at 2 o'clock in the morning and you start sticking me with needles and everything else. That's kidnapping and assault.
But what do we get in return?
Yeah, and so you're saying there's a list of names of people, so they're aware of these people?
Well, that is just it. They do get allegedly, according to the document that you have in front of you, and William Cooper's hypnosis reversal, he claimed that they had a document that was supplied to him of names that the government wanted them to actually abduct. And in the document also says that the Greys specifically require either some form of human blood or animal blood just to survive. Hence why when you have animal mutilations, they're always empty of blood.
Well, Kristen, Katie and myself, we all realize, because we have heard this before, that the Greys are sort of like plant-like. We've been told by some reputable people that they had to bring in botanists to study Grey, and that supposedly that they can make protein into a paste and they absorb it through their skin. They don't digest it like we do.
Well, according to the documents you have in front of you that were mostly concocted in 1972 but portrayed in 1989 to our government, and actually were cataloged under UFO, and I handed it to two agents who actually have top secret clearance, and they told me if they looked at these documents that they would potentially lose their clearance. That's exactly what he talks about. The Greys developed and evolved from a planet that had photosynthesis, in a way of photosynthesis, that they have plant derived, and that they excrete from their body a lot of these things, as well as absorb things through their body. Much like, if you were a kid back in the day and you did acid, how did you do it? It rained, you had stamps in your pocket, you would be in cloud nine. Our bodies, even as humans, we absorb things. I'm not trying to say that, that's the case. I'm just saying that's what the documents do state, that the Greys were allegedly based on a plant-based life forms, as well as that there were 3 other type of life forms, including a Nordic type that was human-based and an AI style based, which I know that we talked a lot, and Katie here presented some interesting information, as I know that artificial intelligence, if you were going we're just getting the point. Listen, I ran as a presidential candidate for the Transhumanist Party in 2020 because I wanted to bring awareness of the ethics, and I got the most second place votes. And this is the top of Silicon Valley's smartest and brightest people who are part of these cults and these organizations that vote. I got the most second place votes. It's because I'm telling you that synthetic biology is the way to work. If you're going to develop a human to travel through space, you're going to create that thing in a petri dish to be able to handle the habitat that it is going to be flying through, including the spaceship. Now, when we talk about synthetic biology, we can make a living spaceship that's made to live in space, to produce nutrients and plants in space while you're out of there with the ingredients that are out there. That's where we are going. I'm not saying we're quite there, but I'm saying if there's an advanced alien civilization, that's what they would do.
Not
Why
to
wouldn't
keep,
they?
yeah, not to keep going back to this point because my mind is kind of blown about this list of names. How are they picking these people? Are they family members
Yeah.
related to military? Because so many times I talk to abductees or contactees, and they have military people in their families. I mean, how are they picking these people?
Like, listen, I don't know.
Lottery?
I don't know. All I know is it suggests that the document suggests that the government supplies the list.
Interesting. I wonder where they're getting their
And
names.
well, it's MJ12 allegedly. That's what the whole document is about. MJ12 is an organization that was created in order to handle all secret black ops, and most of it is funded through the drug trade. That's why it can't really be traced. Much like Iran Contra during the Reagan administration, right? They worked with MTV to create the drug culture and the demand on the streets, while we sold the drugs, and we knew DARE would create awareness and create drug use amongst our children, but they use that as a way to create money in order to fund illegal wars in Nicaragua. And it's no different than that. Like, if you can't trace the money, you can't make it happen. You know, that's how you make it happen, is through black ops, is you do it through the drug trade. Not only that, you can extinguish part of society that you feel is useless eaters on top of it, because they're all addicts and they're used the drugs that you supply. So Freeway Rick Ross showed that Iran Contra, that essentially the CIA procures a lot of the drugs that we provide, and that we put our own people in jail for that. And so I think there's this bad, like that's what the money is used for.
You know, you're just blowing my mind away, because here's such a scary part. You can be saying, because I honestly believe if they actually said, hey, we need something from you in order for us to survive, there'd be people lining up in the block to give it to them.
Right.
They'd say, I want to donate, just like people donating blood, they will donate whatever these people need. But to have the U.S. government and this treaty to say, you're not going to have a choice, we're going to take you, and we're going to take from you, from your body, is one of the most frightening things. I mean, it's almost like it is a criminal offense.
Right.
Well, I mean, after COVID, is anyone surprised?
No. You know,
I'm like, listen, I support everyone's right to do whatever they want. I want you to be safe. Take your professional's opinion. Yeah. I'm just giving you my honest opinion, you know.
Well, let's keep it on the UFOs.
Yes.
Did Cooper have a take on these beings, and if they have any good that they are doing for us?
Well,
if it's literally just a business contract between the government.
Yeah,
and
specifically, it's a business contract, which you're accurate. Yeah. He mentioned that there are multiple underground bases. That's why the government created weapons that were developed to attack deep underground military bases. Today, 50 years later, 40 years later, from these documents, we would call them rods of God. They're dropped from space, and they penetrate deep within the ground in order to destroy deep underground military bases, and they call them Project Excalibur. That's an accurate project that did exist, and that's eventually what it evolved into. So, like, again, this document is very accurate in predicting many things that happened that are now being procured in mainstream news. And that's where I have to ask is, how much was he correct on? Obviously, or was he just a very creative individual that wrote a roadmap for the government? It was like, that's a great idea, William Cooper. That's what we're going to do. Like, I don't know. I'm not going to say that this is the Bible. This is the answer. This is one person's story that has been very influential in our society, especially in underground and centric ideology, as someone who is considered the gospel of conspiracy, the gospel of understanding. And I'm not saying he's right. I'm just saying this is the information he provided, and I was lucky enough to be gifted this article because I filed a FOIA about him surrounding his death.
Speaking about FOIA, and you mentioned the rods of God, it's so interesting. I ran into somebody very, very high up with a lot of clearance in General Electric, and he talked about the rods of God and their back engineered technology that GE has, and they use contract companies like General Electric because you can't FOIA them, so that's really fascinating that you brought that up.
Well, I'm going to tell you guys a little dirty secret about the UFO and finding any secrets about our government. They contract everything out.
Yes, you can.
Yeah. So you can't keep anything a secret.
Yeah.
Really, technically. The question is what is genuine information? What is misinformation?
Well, there's
what
always
is
purposely
disinformation?
disinformation. They're going to put it out there to send you down. I mean, that's very common. We even used it in police work. You know, we would, if we had a killer on the loose and we wanted him to think, hey, it's okay for him to come out and stuff, we would send disinformation to the papers and stuff like that with their, you know, working with them to say, hey, you know, we don't have any leads, which is absolutely not true. Or, you know, we're kind of looking in this direction when we're looking in that direction. So, you know, misinformation is used in all levels of government.
Well, and again, that comes back to what I've been talking about, and what I normally am known for is giving a speech about is programming and the magic behind words. You know, the process of putting symbols together to get to have meaning isn't called wording; it's to cast a spell. It's spelling, and if you stitch them together, it's a curse. What is a curse? What is cursive? And what does it mean when you write? And there's a rite. R-I-T is in ritual. In the word right, it's all there. When you switch a definition to what things mean, you control people's mind. And you need to understand that the government understands these arcane senses. In fact, the term grammar is the laws in which magic work by in arcane sense and in the ancient sense. And we need to understand that it's being used that way today. Even in this subject, like I saw, we hosted on KGRA, which I'm blessed to be on, with Katie Cook, and obviously Katie. Oh, we got Katie squared here. DePerno, top private detective, and they allowed us to have it because we're not the UFO guys, we're the morning news guys, right? And you know, we thought it as mostly a nothing burger. This is all stuff that most people know. They do research themselves, and it's like, well, they're admitting that triangle UFOs are drones, and then they're like saying it's like, okay. They don't want you to know what the truth is, no matter what the government portrays. It's not there to benefit you. It's there to benefit them. Okay. And I believe that there's good people in government. Okay. There's people like, as a person that's strongly held highly in police accountability and accountability in
There's
general.
also bad people in government.
There's also bad people in government.
And there's good aliens.
Right. And in the weekend that Bilderberg meets and talks about UFOs, and it was 2017, I was at Bilderberg in Chantilly, Virginia, and I hustled down a couple of people that attended the organization, and on video I asked them, what was it you guys are talking about? And they were talking about how to reveal UFOs to the American public, and we all laughed at them. And here we are.
Well, I hope they do.
So what would it take for you to be convinced that UFOs are real, alien life is real?
Okay, first of all, I'm going to be honest with you. UFOs are real. They are real. They're just unidentified flying objects.
Yeah.
I don't know what they are. You don't know what they are. That's why they're UFOs or UAPs. What I would like to see is the law of journalism. Listen to everyone, question everything, and don't believe unless you can prove with your own two hands. Unless I see it, or I can touch it, or I can feel it, or I can, you know, investigate it, or have documentation of the investigation, video, whatever it is.
Would you be open to having a personal experience? Is that something
Absolutely.
that you
Like,
hope to experience in
listen,
your life?
I'm all down about hanging out at the space bar, and I'm not talking about a keyboard. Like I'm just joking. I make jokes. Okay, I'm from Wisconsin. That's why I sound like I'm from Canada here. But like, I think that I had okay. I'm going to have a very serious conversation with you guys for just a short time. I've worked with Jordan Maxwell. You guys familiar with Jordan Maxwell, protege of Manly P. Hall, very prominent individual. And I asked Jordan Maxwell before he recently died if he believed in UFOs, because I was struggling with the conversation. And Jordan Maxwell looks at me and he talks to me while I'm hanging out with him. And he goes, you know what? I was out there once and I was taken to a location where UFOs are prominent. We were driving and I saw a UFO. He said, I turned pale white and I was never more scared than I was in my life. And it followed us and chased us from where we were at, and he drove off. And I have this recorded on audio. Jordan Maxwell, obviously a big-time philosopher involving in the subject. I believe our government is responsible for a majority of UFOs. But at the same time, I do believe that there's a presence here we cannot explain. And it might be even not from outer space. I think that's more likely that these UFOs are occurring from within our own planet. We have giant ocean. We
Absolutely.
have hollow pockets within our planet. There's ocean underneath the crust that is larger than anything we have on the Earth on the surface. Like, what do we know about all of this stuff? Because obviously, at the very least, if there's oceanic properties underneath the crust, there's life underneath the crust. If it's at the small scale, so
we have not conquered the ocean. We only know a little bit about it. So who's to say there's not another civilization?
Mermaids, mermans, I'm in. I'm just kidding.
You just want to wear a shell bra.
That's it. Oh, you got. Well, I mean, I'm getting there. I'm trying to work out. Thanks for noticing, though, Miss Cook, Mrs. Cook. Yeah.
No, you're right though.
I just think that there is such good evidence that we need to explore that there's other civilizations on this planet. And I think you bring that great point up that if we don't start looking right here on Earth, we can look out there, but we need to look right here too. That's excellent.
Well, I mean, we've done a lot of investigation in this, right? We want to be deeper in the planet. We want to learn more about oceans. And I'm not trying to digress and pivot too much, but look at in the bottom of the Mediterranean Sea, we have 130 civilizations. Where did all the water come from? There's very little we know about this planet. There's very little that we understand about where we came from or where we go. And when we talk about alien species and the mythology, most mythology points to the fact that this planet was colonized, but we don't want to even consider that as an option. It came from that we rained on the rocks for millions of years and we walked out of a sludge bowl. I came from rain on the rocks. That's what people want me to believe in school. It's like I'm an intelligent person. You want me to believe that it rains on the rocks and that's where we come from. I see rain on the rocks every day. I'm not, listen, thousands of years. I can't observe this. So of course it's improbable or impossible because that's the kind of mindset you have to be in. Listen.
And a little more than thousands of years, but yes.
Well, you get it. Millions and millions
I get
of
it,
years,
but yes.
whatever.
No, it is a stretch.
It's a stretch.
It's a stretch.
And mathematically, though, the idea that this planet was colonized is way more mathematically likely, at least in my ideology, that we came from it raining on the rocks. And it sounds wild because I list it like that. Listen, if you believe in evolution, I support your right. Listen, friends who are atheists, Gnostic, whatever it is. If you believe in religion, I support you. The problem is that we're not willing to have open debates about these conversations anymore.
But don't you think we don't have these open debates because it's scary? To think of the idea that we were colonized, became here from other civilizations, and totally throw out everything that we've been taught from yay high. That's a scary thought to some people.
It is. And I will throw out what's also scary is that we only have 2 minutes left.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're almost done.
We're down to our last 2 minutes, but they don't have to be mutually exclusive. I think we can have evolution and we could have also been colonized. And I mean, what if it's all going on? I just think we have this tendency as humans to go, I have to figure it out. I like this theory. That feels good to me. I'm holding on to that one. And then we don't talk, and we do have to just be able to go, hey, what if we're both right? I mean, we don't know.
Well, it's not even about being right. It's about being able to accept that people have different ideas.
Yeah.
And that we don't have to agree in order to be good people to each other.
Absolutely.
Listen, like I mentioned, I work in an era where atheism and science is God. Okay. But at the same time, I understand that there's more than what we know that science can even explain. And that if you believe that, I support your right, but you should be able to have the ability to have a debate rationally that is not violent, not upset, that we can have a civil conversation about a difficult subject and still be able to come to the understanding that we're both great people and to be able to hang out and high five each other.
I think it's about taking ego out of the way because I'm not threatened by your ideas and you're not threatened by mine. And if more of us can just get to that point,
just hang out, have a good time.
We'll learn a lot from
and that's
each
what
other.
we're doing here. And that's why these conferences are so great, right? Pine Bush, that's what it's all about, to bring us all together with these ideas.
It's just amazing that such a place you can come and have healthy discussions on topics and walk away with such vast amount of knowledge from different people and take different ideas.
Right.
And I got to tell you, Kristan, I'm a big fan of yours. I think you did a great job on your show, The Rundown. folks, if you ever want to see a great show, you got to watch The Rundown with Kristan T. Harris.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you to Marc Dantonio and Martin Willis and all our guests. And gosh, thanks for Bill and his mom. She's
Thank
awesome.
you guys, by the way. Without you guys, listen, all three of you, I've met Chris first, but you guys all have a very important chakra and aura around you guys that is different. We all have a different role to play. We're not meant to all go down the
I
same
don't know.
path.
Cookie says I have a low frequency, so I'm not sure.
Well, I agree with that. That's because you were a cop. So that's the end, right?
We're out of time, but this is
All of a sudden we're out of time. Look at that.
Thank you to Best Guy Watcher Amanda Kern. We'll see you all next week. Bye.
What's up, guys? Have a good night.